Welcome to Make a Path Presents. I'm Ronnie Hayes, and today let's talk about Michonne from The Walking Dead and whether or not she is done with the franchise. We already know, it's already confirmed, she is leaving in the second half of Season 10. Now, we didn't get much information about where she's going after that, and I think a lot has to do with locking down the details and the contracts. They don't announce anything before the contracts are locked into place. For example, last year Rick Grimes left the show and he gave this very coded final message saying he's not really done with Rick Grimes yet. And they're doing something similar with Michonne. Now, obviously on the show, we will know whether she leaves and she's not dead or whether she's killed off in the show. We'll know whether she'll be in the show again in the future and in what capacity. Obviously, for example, if she dies in Season 10, then we know the only time they can have her in it is if we ever do a flashback of sorts, maybe during the multiple time skips. If she lives, then we know there is a really good chance she could end up in the Rick Grimes movies or something else. Now, keep in mind, this is coming from Scott Gimple himself. We're not just wildly speculating here. Now, it's important to take into consideration they don't have everything locked into place right now, just like when Rick left, just like when they said it would be an AMC movie. Back then, that's what we thought they were doing. And it still seems like they will almost definitely end up airing it. Once it's done in theaters, it most likely will air on AMC. Maybe before new seasons, special marathons. You know, they'll do stuff like that once it's in theaters and then released on Blu-ray, and then it'll put on AMC, Netflix. Who knows what other deals they're going to make after the fact. That's just how it goes in with distribution. Anyway, Scott Gimple went on to say, let's show what he said. They were talking to Michonne about her exit. They were talking to some of the cast, and I'll go right to Scott Gimple. And it says here, Scott Gimple, the chief content officer of The Walking Dead universe, did give us a hint that maybe her last episode won't be Denai's last outing as Michonne. She has, and this is Scott Gimple's direct quote, she has some amazing things ahead of her, and we're not completely done with her. I'll say that. We are not completely done with anyone who comes and goes on the show, but she has some amazing things ahead. Now, the problem with that type of quote is he could mean directing in the future, which I wouldn't be surprised if she ends up directing an episode in season 11 or 12 or whatever. But what has me more curious, what I'm more interested in talking about, is what seems to be a growing trend. And again, the platform is the main thing. The platform being the AMC channel, which houses the main show. And that's where it started. You have AMC's channel, the main show, and then we saw it starting to break off with a spinoff, which was a companion show, and then it morphed into a spinoff. We see a third show. For all we know right now, the third show is going to air just the same. It's going to be on the AMC channel and yada, yada, yada. But with Rick's departure, they announced the AMC movies, but then they locked in a deal to distribute it through, I keep forgetting, I think it's Universal. I keep mixing it up. But it's one of the big companies, but they locked in a deal to put the movies in theater, which I'm hyped about. A Rick movies, a Walking Dead movie in the theaters. Oh, hell yeah, you know? I'm hyped about that. But we also have this AMC Premiere, this digital service where you get a subscription. It has to connect to your current cable situation, which I think is something I've been saying this since the beginning. They need to get around that. It needs to be like HBO Go. I have HBO Go on my phone. I don't need to even have a house. As long as I have an internet connection, I open an account and I pay for it, and then I just sign in wherever I'm at. My cell phone, a tablet, a computer, a smart TV. Literally, HBO Go, it's no strings attached. It is just like HBO's version of Netflix. You don't need to have a set cable to connect it to. With AMC, at this point in time, you have to have the cable going already and then add a $5 AMC Premiere so you can watch some behind-the-scenes stuff, so you can see some episodes early. And that is what I'm assuming or speculating the beginning of a new platform for AMC. You have the channel, and then beyond the channel, you have their own digital service, which again, it's connected to the channel, but maybe in the future it won't be. So the reason I bring that up is because we're seeing the main show's cast splinter off. We're also seeing the spin-off cast taken from the main show going to the spin-off. We're seeing contracts of the high-profile characters and actors from the main show, 2 confirmed already, which is Daryl and Carol. They've signed contracts for the whole universe in The Walking Dead, which could possibly be more common moving forward if The Walking Dead or AMC has plans to go beyond the channel. And again, this is real general because it'll be a slow process. It's not like, or I wouldn't expect next year we have all these different interconnected show and then movie. No, I would imagine the TV show would dwindle, the cast would separate, and then we might possibly see individual movies in theaters and then mini movies on AMC. I don't know what to call them. Channel movies and then theater movies. You get what I'm saying? Because again, the whole concept here is to get money from the story, whether it is the channel and people watch it at a certain time every night, or the digital service where people are paying for this service. I'm hoping AMC is working towards a structure where it's like Netflix, where all you need to do is pay the bill and you can put it on whatever tablet you sign in on. I mean, that would be proper. They need to start adding the behind-the-scenes stuff. They need to start figuring out how much of that they could save up throughout the seasons that's never been shown before. The Negan cursing, you don't have to, you have to re-edit it, sure. But you don't have to lock in a distribution deal with another company to re-release the season 7 with Negan uncensored. We know they recorded it, unless they're lying to us. This is just one example. Imagine if AMC behind the scenes started crafting this digital service, knowing they can have Michonne in her own movie, not just the Rick Grimes movies. And keep this in mind, Rick is going to get 3 movies. They didn't even start production yet, not that we know. It's going to be a little bit before they get to them. So what is an easier schedule? 16 episodes being on or near the set or close to the set, even for reshoots or just the regular shoots itself, as Michonne in the show that takes up so much time, or breaking off and doing a movie, and then Rick's movie will come first, Michonne's movie, and down the line they could intersect those. And by that time, we're talking, 2 years from now? That might be the end of the main show, as far as we know it. It might downsize some, let's say 10 episodes, and they might splinter some of those characters off and incorporate those in the movie series. Again, I know it gets a little convoluted and flustered, but I'm thinking this is more of a digital thing, and then to keep the actors around with scheduling, because 16 episodes, it gets to be a haul, and the movies, and if they're keeping this character alive, which I know Scott Gimple might be talking about directing, but it doesn't seem like that. It seems like he really is hinting that we're not done with Michonne yet, and she could possibly end up, and I know everyone's jumping to the Rick movies, but guys, it could be anything. It could be Michonne's own movie of how she goes from leaving the main show to ending up where or somewhere near where Rick is. I think fans would dig that, a whole adventure of Michonne out there, seeing where she is, what she's doing, and yada, 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 and even the hunt for Rick Grimes, a theme like that. I think people can really dig that. Now, keep in mind, this is it's a little rough to figure out how they're going to do all that, because they're skipping so much time. It's not like he just passed. It's been years. So even if he was alive and she knew about it, I'm not really sure if they're going to have a hunt for Rick Grimes unless we get something. And I don't think we're getting anything until the main Rick Grimes #1 movie comes out. I'm just not sure if we'll get anything even in Fear the Walking Dead. We saw how they promoted that so much and didn't tell anyone anything once it aired. It was like, oh yeah, we got Fear the Walking Dead ties into the Rick movies, and all we see is a chick dressed in black in a helicopter. Well, we saw it in the trailer, you didn't tell us anything new, so it's not like they're going to give us any new information on that. But I do think it's a platform thing, the digital, because people are just, I don't know. I see a lot of people more interested in, getting specifically what they want and not paying for whole packages. I don't have cable. I think we got cable that comes with the rent. I never watch it unless I'm watching The Walking Dead or when I used to watch Fear the Walking Dead. I don't ever go near it because I got HBO, I got Netflix. I jump on and buy episodes or movies digitally, with a click. It is what it is, or I get them in physical form. I mean, and I love the physicals because we've seen licensing drop. But anyway, my idea with what's going on in the world of the Walking Dead franchise is it might be a case where they are growing this and going to continue the stories alongside the main series, which will be changing some of the cast over. We might be keeping Daryl and Carol for a few years. And this will line up, let me think, with their contract. I think it was last year they signed a 3-year contract where it covers them from going from one show to the next to the movies. So for 3 years, they could pretty much do anything. It would line up if that's the case, if the Walking Dead show was, grinding down to a halt. But on the flip side, they have all this other stuff that they're going to springboard from the main show and do their own thing. Now, if they're keeping Fear alive, no offense, but I think that means they'll probably keep the main show going for a while yet and just splinter these characters apart and do their own little mini movies. Imagine Negan in the comic. Negan just bounces. He's just gone for good. And fans often thought it was to do some type of Negan's own thing. But in the show, that can be course corrected into Negan's own movie himself. Jeffrey Dean Morgan is big enough to headline his own feature. And it doesn't have to be in the theaters either. They can go back and do the AMC type movies. They can do movies that air with different contracts depending on how the Rick movies, how well they do. Other opportunities can present itself. So I know some fans get frustrated at the thought of not having one simple TV show to watch. But it is possible they're working towards Rick movies, Michonne movies, friggin' Negan movies, and some of them will interconnect. We could see Negan jumping in here and there. Fucking thunder. We can see Negan jumping in here and there to the main show, doing a few cameos. But then we can see Daryl or Carol or other characters doing some cameos in the Negan movie. And it all matters on, and those are just examples. It all matters on what story they're telling and how they're going to tell it. But anyway, that's just something that has been on my brain for a minute now. I've been wanting to discuss this, and with Michonne's departure from the show and Scott Gimple's teases, it just got me thinking. It got me thinking so many complicated things because we don't know all the stuff going on behind the scenes. We don't know how much stock they're putting into the digital service. We don't know if they're trying to grow that the way we think or the way I think they're going to grow it or should grow it. We're not really sure. So again, it's huge speculation, but there's definitely seeds of something going on. You guys leave your thoughts and opinions down in that comment box. Let me know what you think. I would love to have someone to talk about about this specific topic because it's driving me nuts. I'm really curious. Thoughts and opinions down there. I'm done talking. It's your turn.